Racheal Cook here, founder of the Yogipreneur, and so excited to kick off the new season of Yogipreneur TV with my dear friend Cailen Ascher of Calm Biz. Cailen and I have gotten to know each other a little bit over the past year, and I'm so excited to bring her on today to talk about this one piece that could make a profound difference in your local yoga teaching career. So before we dive right in, I want to introduce you to her real quick. She shares business and marketing practices for yoga teachers over at calmbiz.com. So we serve a lot of the same types of people. And she specifically is focused on helping you turn your passion into a fun, fulfilling, and sustainable career. You know, I love that word sustainable. So important for yoga teachers out there. So she's been featured on Elephant Journal, Mind Body Green, Teach Asana, and also on the Yoga Business Revolution and the Vibrant Yoga Entrepreneur Speaker Series. And she's got an exciting round of free training coming up for you, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome, Cailen.
Thanks for having me, Racheal. This is exciting.
Well, I'm so excited to bring you on because I know you have a background not only in teaching yoga, but also in helping yoga teachers really start to become a pro in their career and take ownership of, you know, having a thriving career and not just kind of being an employee, but also stepping into the role of this is something I have to be entrepreneurial about, take a more entrepreneurial mindset. So your upcoming training is really exciting, and I know you have some great free resources coming out to talk about a missing piece that most local yoga teachers seem to have. So I'd love for you to kind of tell us a little bit about what was the need that you started to see in the yoga community.
Sure. Well, it's something I know you've addressed too, and it's this need to have some kind of online presence. I think a lot of local yoga teachers, they rely on the studio to do their marketing, or we yogis like to just let karma take care of everything and draw the right students in. But I'm a more proactive gal than that, and I think there's a lot of yoga teachers out there that really want to see that they're reaching the right people and drawing the right people in. And so having some kind of online presence is such a valuable piece of business for anybody, any entrepreneur nowadays. Sure. But I think yoga teachers are starting to get on the bandwagon with it and embrace the idea of not only reaching their local community, but expanding out into the global community. Because in my mind, it's like, why put limits on yourself? You know, there's people all over the country, all over the world that could benefit from the yoga lessons that you're sharing. So why not think about how to put that out there and serve more people? Because that's what we like to do as yoga teachers.
For sure. Well, one thing you landed on that I want to kind of dive into and tease apart a little bit is that a lot of yoga teachers depend on a studio to do the marketing. And because I've worked with a lot of studios and teachers, I really see it as it has to be almost like a partnership, like a cooperative. Like you have to support one another. And an amazing thing happens when teachers start marketing and promoting themselves. Is it really like the rising tide lifts all ships, right? Like it really supports the studios. It makes studios more sustainable, and it ensures that you have a place to teach. So that's pretty important, right? Yeah,
no, it is. And the thing is if you're drawing in more students into your classes because of the marketing that you've initiated, then maybe you're going to get an opportunity to teach another class, or they'll ask you to teach a workshop there, or maybe if you propose a workshop, they'll be that much more open to letting you host it there because they see that you're not only putting yourself out there, but you're doing good things for the entire yoga community.
For sure. There's my dog running through the house. Well, one thing that we have talked about and that I know your upcoming free series is going to be diving into is the power of creating a newsletter. Yes. So I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of teachers can get a little overwhelmed by the concept of an online presence. Like that can encompass so many moving pieces, but you're putting out there that, you know, starting with a newsletter can be a really powerful way just to get your feet wet and to get the conversation going with your community. So I'd like for you to share a little bit about why a newsletter? Why is it so important?
Sure. Well, for me, I think a newsletter, it's something I've personally used to create a really strong online community for my business. And it's a great doorway in for yoga teachers because you don't need a website. You don't need social media. I mean, it's a great complement to it, but you don't need it starting out. All you need is an email address. And there's free platforms out there like MailChimp.com, and all you need is your email address, and you can set this vehicle up to deliver your yoga messages to your yoga community. And I also think that staying in contact with your community on a regular basis is so important to build a relationship with them so that your students stick with you. And also, a newsletter is great because it arrives in their inbox, which is where a lot of people spend a lot of time. I know I hang out in my inbox probably more than I need to. But it's great. It shows up right in front of them. And then if the things you're saying strike a chord with them or they think someone else could benefit, they can easily forward it along. So your students and your fans out there become marketing messengers for you, and they can start sharing, the content that you're putting out there. So it's a win-win all around.
I love that, and I definitely 1,000% agree. So one thing that I hear a lot from people when they first get started sending out an email newsletter specifically is they're worried about bothering people. So let's talk about this, because this is something, that I know you and I are both trying to reframe this, that marketing isn't about bothering people or, annoying them or just always saying, buy my stuff or show up for my thing. It's more about letting them know what you have going on and giving them the opportunity to make the decision for themselves.
Yes.
So
I think
that's super important, right? To know that marketing isn't about being pushy. It's more about letting people make decisions. So why is a newsletter coming via email better than something like having a Facebook page or having a Twitter or even having a blog? Why is this kind of a foundational piece?
Well, I found that for me, as I said, I hang out in my inbox. I know a lot of people's preferred way of communicating, of receiving news and information is via email. Yeah. And we're so busy nowadays that we don't necessarily have the time to constantly check Twitter or Facebook. And who's to say when they do check your Twitter page or your Facebook page or whatever, that the content you're hoping them to see is actually going to be at the top of your feed. It might have trickled down under pictures or other comments or whatever's going on that page during those other moments. So it's so nice that you can deliver the exact message that you're hoping for them to read, and it shows up in their inbox. And maybe sometimes they choose not to read it, but it's there, and it gives them the opportunity to check in with you on their time frame. Maybe it'll sit there for a day or two unopened, but then when they have some free time and they want to read about this great, yoga practice that you put together and did a little video with, or maybe some poses for low back pain or whatever it is that you're offering, then they can check in with it on their own schedule and make time for it in their lives when they're comfortable to take in that information.
Awesome. So for a local teacher, someone who really just knows students who've come into the studio you might be teaching at, I know a lot of teachers teach at multiple studios, and some studios don't necessarily want teachers to be creating an email list on their own.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for a local teacher who knows that she wants to fill her workshops and she wants more people to come to her classes, but she doesn't want to step on the toes of the studios she's working at? Any pieces of advice for that type of teacher?
Totally. I think first and foremost, having an open discussion with the studio, especially if you know this is going to be a conflict, if they've said certain things or there's policies in place that restrict you from doing that. And as we said earlier, it's really about a collaborative effort. You're not going out there trying to poach your students and bring them over to a different location. Yeah. It's about encouraging them to stay with you at the studio where they're learning from you, and even maybe investigate other opportunities to delve deeper into their yoga at that studio. And so I think having a really frank and open discussion with the studio management and telling them that you're not doing this for you. You're doing it for the students who are also their clients. And in the end, all the benefits that it could have for them, that this community that you're beginning to grow will hopefully show up and take classes from them and want to learn more and experience more because they're seeing the value that you're putting out there. I think a lot of people you'll find are rather open to it once you bridge that gap. And maybe if there's certain things that they're concerned about, maybe you promise that you don't open with promoting a class or a workshop at another studio when you're reaching out. Maybe you always open with free information that's really great, yoga-based, that anyone can benefit from. And then in the sidebar or the bottom of your newsletter, then you can plug your offerings across all the studios that you teach at. And I mean, there's always a chance that they're still going to say no. And, it is what it is. But I think in the end, it would just be a detriment to themselves. And
yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic that we're seeing because more teachers are really having to step into being an entrepreneur and make this piece happen for themselves to be sustainable, which is, I know, something you and I are both passionate about is
totally
making sure you can actually say, I'm a yoga teacher and I can, pay the rent and buy groceries, and not, I'm a yoga teacher and I also have to waitress on the side and bartend and, do a million other odds and ends because teaching yoga isn't a sustainable career. Mm-hmm. So this has been an interesting dynamic, and I think the teachers who take this and can be really forthright with the studios that they're working with, and also kind of almost educating those studios like, hey, I'm going to be a better teacher if I can show up and know that I can do my best work and I'm not exhausted and burned out from doing all the stuff, if I can actually fill my classes and make it a real thing for me. So it's a total win-win. It's just about how you approach it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So true.
Awesome. So when it comes to what you're teaching now with newsletters, what are some key things you want yoga teachers specifically to be thinking about when it comes to starting a newsletter if they really don't have any other type of online presence?
Okay, so I think there's a few things. First of all, you have to let people know that you have a newsletter. You have to, and as we were saying before, you don't want to just spam people. So it's really good to get people's permission, or at least to give them an opt-out. If they're currently your students, you have their emails, but then you're going to ramp it up a little bit and start showing up on maybe a weekly basis. Let them know about it or give them a clear opt-out if it's not something they want to hear. But once you let people know, I think the next piece of it is to offer value. Don't just email them when you have a workshop coming up or when you have some kind of training program going on. It's great to let them know about it, but you should give more than you get out of it. And I'd say 80% of the time, just offer them free advice. Give them more doorways into yoga. Teach them how to take their yoga off the mat, because they maybe show up to your class once a week, once every other week. Give them ways to incorporate yoga into their lives, and they'll benefit so much from it, and they'll become really loyal to you for that. And the last piece I would say about the newsletter is to be consistent. Whether it's once a week, once every other week, at minimum once a month, but I think that's a little infrequent. I really think bi-weekly or weekly is the way to go. And try to make it a consistent practice, whether it be every Tuesday, every other Wednesday, something that gives them something they can count on from you. Just like they show up for your class every Thursday at 9 a.m., let them know that this bit of yoga information is going to be arriving for them consistently and that they can depend on it. And you, basically, is what you're teaching them. They can count on you.
I absolutely love that, and so spot on. I agree 1,000%. It's exactly what I would recommend. So I know you have a great training coming up, and you have some more in-depth free goodies to help people who maybe haven't thought about or started a newsletter yet. So tell everybody how they can get more from you around this and what your upcoming training is going to be about.
Sure. I have this free training coming up, and it's called 2 Hours to Yoga Biz. which I love. And it's very clear out there. It's 2 hours a week that I'm asking you to commit to start building your yoga business. And in the free training, which starts on September 4th, I'm going to roll out 3 free videos that really share some marketing basics and essentials that I've used to build and grow my business, and give you a sneak peek at some behind-the-scenes stuff for an upcoming course I have going on, all about the stuff we were talking about today. Building a newsletter, how to set that up, how to create a marketing schedule, all that juicy stuff that really lays the foundation for all future marketing endeavors that you might take, into account as you move forward and think about taking it to the next level with a website. This is all that basic foundational stuff that really gets you ready to ramp it up.
I love that. So make sure if you are ready to start building that yoga business, that you take advantage of her great free training, because I know it's going to be full of all sorts of juicy little nuggets that you can put in place even without taking your program. You're going to get so much value out of it. So thank you, Cailen, so much for joining me today. I love what you're up to, and it's really fun for me to be able to connect and collaborate with other like-minded people who are helping the yoga world, and it's so wonderful to see the work that you're doing, especially with local teachers. It's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Racheal. This is great.
Awesome. Well, until next time, we will talk with you soon. Bye, guys.
Ready to be inspired in your biz? Get weekly lessons to live in your business sweet spot, plus exclusive content that I only share via email. Sign up for updates at theyogipreneur.com.